I want to share with you for a few minutes about my top tips for being the happiest person that you know. Now, I want to start by saying this. I kind of came out of my mom's womb being pretty happy. I'm kind of an optimist. I'm a go-getter. I'm an adventurous. I like to keep things positive. But I felt like the more into adulthood that I really walked into, the more discouraged, the more overwhelmed I became, the more depressed I became, and I started to lose my excitement. In fact, when I was in my early 20s, I was diagnosed with ulcers. I remember feeling completely overwhelmed. By the time I hit my mid-30s, I had been diagnosed with clinical depression 3 different times. I had my first anxiety attacks in my 30s. I was overwhelmed. And the crazy part was I loved God. Like, in all of this, I wanted God's will for my life, and I loved God. And so me being a happy person wasn't really linked to my spiritual fervency or my passion for God, which seemed kind of counterintuitive. Like, that doesn't really make sense. How can you love God and serve God with your whole heart and not be happy? Like, that doesn't seem like that's the right thing. And yet, I know I'm not alone. I've spent 20 years serving a lot of people in the faith-based community, and the truth is, there's a lot of us that have dealt with high anxiety, high fear, high moments, and not felt really like ourselves. And so I really began to I came to a point in my life after I felt like I'm done. I don't feel happy. I don't feel connected. I don't feel joyful. I'm doing all the right things, but I don't feel that. And I remember one day quitting my job. I locked myself in my house with my little boys, and I began to talk to God. I began to ask some really hard questions. I remember saying to him, like, if there is a way to love you, if there's a way to serve you, if there's a way to follow your purpose for my life in a way that I can do in an everyday way, then I want to find it. Like, I don't want to feel anxious all the time. I don't want to feel fearful all the time. I don't want to feel overwhelmed and overworked or abused by my supposed calling. Like, I want to know what that is, and I want you to show me. Like, I need some paths. Like, I need to know what this looks like. And I remember asking him hard questions like, how am I going to hear your voice every day in my everyday life? Like, I need to know how to do that. I also need to know how to build a vibrant spiritual life. Like, I don't want it to be that carrot that's dangled out in front of me all the time, where it feels like, you know, when everything happens in my life, then I'm going to be happy. Or when I know the right people or have the opportunities, then I'll be happy. I'm tired of that spiritual reality kind of being dangled out in front of me. I want to know, like, is this really possible? I remember asking God, like, is it possible to finish strong? Because in my church community, I'm not seeing people finish strong. In fact, I'm seeing them get really burned out and overwhelmed, and they're kind of willing themselves, like putting their feet down and going like, I'm going to serve God, but it didn't feel fun and joyful, and like they were having a good time. It felt like they were doing the right thing. I remember asking God, like, can I actually raise kids to love you in this world? Like, this crazy world that at the touch of a finger, they can have anything that they want. And I didn't have that growing up. Is it possible to raise my kids to be clear-eyed and love God and not have to go through a bunch of crap? Like, is that possible? I remember asking God if I could actually be influential without being self-promoting. Like, was there a way to actually have influence and want influence without feeling like somehow it was connected to pride or arrogance or whatever? And I remember just sitting there and being like, okay, God, what is warfare? Like, what's spiritual warfare? God, what is renewing the mind? What is, like, the power of what I'm talking about? I've read all the books from my, like, spiritual, like, legends and heroes, but I'm telling you, I live in a different generation. I don't live in a generation where I have lots of time and lots of energy and lots of resources. I'm in a generation where I need to know what the quickest path is to get there. And I sat in my house. It makes me emotional thinking about, because I remember thinking like, God, I want to help my generation know how to love you. I want to help my generation know how to serve you. And I'm overwhelmed myself, and I feel guilty that I already don't really know how to do this. And I feel like I'm really good at starting things, but I'm not good at finishing things. And I need to know the secrets to living this life. And I don't want to fake it. I don't want to prop it up. I don't want to like smoke and mirror it. I just want the real thing. Like, I want to know that I know. And I want to know that when I look at my kids' eyes, when I put them to bed at night and I pray over them, I want to know that they're getting the real thing. I don't want them to think that I'm some religious leader who's faking it. I want them to know that Mommy really knows God. Like, she really knows God. She really hears his voice, that there is a real God and he's got a purpose for their life. And that even though the world isn't maybe glorifying that or putting, a big shining light on that, it's real. And just because they haven't experienced it doesn't make it real. And I remember just sitting in my house and opening up my Bible and saying, God, I'm not the most educated person. This is not I'm not an apologetics person. I don't have all that skill, but I do feel like I could take the complicated topics and pull them apart to help a lot of people. And that's really where my first Bible study began. I did a study called Keep Confident Strong, and I didn't know if it would bless anybody. In fact, I remember being really nervous about it. I went to my local publisher, like this little print house, and it was so funny because as I printed this Bible study, I thought there would be like 30 women that would come to this study, and I asked my church if I could have a room, and I set my seats up, and we had 100 women show up. But the funniest part was the books that we printed were so crappy that they were red and they leaked ink on everybody's hands. I remember somebody coming back the next week and saying, I love the Bible study, but the book that I had, I left it on my front seat in my car, and like my front seat is red. I'm like, I'm sorry, we don't have it in the budget to fix that. I'm so sorry. That's the price of the gospel in your life. I'm being so overwhelmed. But it's kind of began this journey of like, is there a way to uncomplicate things? And I gotta be honest, it's become a mandate in my life. Like, I'm so passionate about uncovering things that seem like secret handshakes in the church. Like, you go to one in community and you're like, I don't know how to hear God's voice. And everyone's like, well, I know how to hear God's voice. Of course I prophesy. Of course I hear his voice. Or, well, I don't know how to raise godly kids. Well, I do. Obviously, my kids served God, so I know all the secrets. But it felt like I don't know biblically what's a big deal. And I don't know what God really wants me to do. And some things were, I don't know how to finish strong. I don't know how to stay fervent in my life. Or I actually don't know how my spirit, soul, and body work together. I don't even know that there's those three parts together. And so is it a spiritual issue? Is it a sin issue? Or is it really just, I don't know how it all works? And I began to pull it apart. And that's really what Truth the Table was. Truth the Table was a platform that was like, can I get the truth that I'm learning onto people's table, into their everyday life to learn? And I have some really exciting, and I promise I'm going to get to these 3 points because I think it's all going to be connected to becoming the happiest person that you know. But I'll say this, Truth the Table was my way of pulling apart pieces of the word to give you an actual tangible way of hearing God. And so we pulled it apart. I have some really exciting news. I have such exciting news right now, and that is we looked at this. I was like, okay, we've done these studies. We've actually almost 100,000 people from around the world that have joined these studies, and I love that. But something was missing. Like, I would look at my husband and I would say, like, I'm excited that people did radical growth and I do hard things, and it's exciting that people are doing this, but I'm not looking for people to buy a book and do a study. I'm looking for life transformation. Like, I want people to be discipled. I want them to know that they know that they know that they know that they have what it takes. Like, I want them to know that I gave them my very best, and all the things that were complicated and overwhelming and didn't know I wanted them to know, like, oh, spiritual renewal. Oh, I know all about that. Or living a vibrant life. Oh, I know all about that. Or doing hard things well. Oh, I actually know how to do that. And I wanted life transformation. And it was so Ben and I began to go for walks at night, and I would talk to him about it, and I'd say, like, what if there's a way to actually walk people through these studies instead of just saying, hey, here's the videos and here's the content? Could there actually be a way where people could be mentored and discipled through it so that they could actually capture it? And, you know, could it be like 8 minutes or 9 minutes a day? And could it actually give them the book immediately so they could start? Because for me, I was a good starter. So I wanted, like, if I was to get started, sign up for something, I wanted it at that moment. I don't want to wait for it to arrive in the mail. Is anybody else like that? Like, I want it now. Could there be a way that we could actually take people on journeys, pathways? And that's kind of where Pathways was birthed out of our kitchen table this year. Pathways it's like a process that we came up with. It's like a journey where we decided that we would take people not just from an idea of buying a book and watching a few videos, but we would sit with you for a season, and we would mentor you, and we would send you classes, and we would connect with you online and begin to walk you through the discipleship you maybe aren't getting as a mom or a wife or a leader. We wanted that to happen. And so next week we are launching something called Pathways. Pathways at Truth the Table is it's a community. It's a movement that we're inviting you into to sign up with us. And really what it is it's something that we're trying out. We've prepared it. We like it. We know it's going to work, but we are, in a sense, we're starting something out with you that we think we're really excited about. It's really the thing that I know worked for me. If somebody would have sat with me and worked with me, I know that I could have grown the things that I wanted to grow faster, quicker, with more clarity, and to stay inspired. So here's what I've come up with. The way that, and let me say this, some of you guys are watching this right now and you're like, dang, I wish my daughter was watching this, or gosh, I wish my friend was watching this. Would you share this? Like, share this on your wall. We've had so many shares this week. We've had so many of you that have watched these videos and you've shared it, and people have been inspired and they're sharing them and they're posting them. But if you could maybe share it, and if you're like, I don't want to share it on my wall, no problem. Just actually add their name underneath and they'll see it, and that will help encourage them. But I want to say this, the steps to living joyful isn't hard. Having a spiritually vibrant life, as I begin to look at it, these steps aren't hard, but they do require some specific things. And this isn't for everybody, but they're for some of us. Someone like me, this is what we needed. The first thing that you really need is you need a guide. Like, you need somebody who's in your corner, who's cheering you on, where you're not on your own going, I don't know how to do this. I've never been a mom. I've never been a leader. I've never been in this season of my life. You need somebody who's saying, I see you, I hear you, and I'm with you. You need a guide to help you live a joyful life. You know, when I'm in trouble, what do? I call a girlfriend. I say, hey, help me. I'll call Lisa or call my mom, and I'll be like, I'm in trouble. Help me. Am I going to make it? That's really normal, and we need that. Like, that's important in our life. And so to live a joyful life, you need a guide. You know, it's interesting. Even Jesus knew that. And when he left the earth, he left us a guide. That guide, the Holy Spirit, is to comfort us. But it's also about having a spiritual guide in our life. And that's what I want to be for you. I want to invite you to join me on my community where I can help spiritually guide you in the ways to grow a spiritually vibrant life. And it's not something that we just, stumble over. It's something that we have to invest in. But if you invest, I promise you, your life will look totally different next year. Like, take a minute. There's maybe 100 of you on this, and there'll be thousands of you that'll watch this later. But I want you to think for a minute, what do you want your life to look like a year from now? Not just look like, what do you want it to feel like? When you think about a year from now and your kids are a year older, maybe you're married a year older or longer, or maybe you're at a different season, what's the feeling that you want? I think the feeling that you want is a deep peace, a peace knowing that you invested in yourself. You built a spiritual life that will never go away. You'll take it with you. That you built more foundation. But I don't want you to do that on your own. And the truth is, if you don't have a plan, you're not going to do it. And so I want to help you. If you'll let me help you, if you'll sit at my table for a couple months, I'm confident that you will have life transformation and that your life will change. The second thing you need is you need things to be uncomplicated. You actually need help uncomplicating things in your life. I know I do. Like when I go, like to eat healthy or, counseling or whatever it is in my life, I need someone to say, okay, this is your big dream, and I know that's what you want in your life. You want this, and you want influence, and you want clarity, and you want purpose, but that's all really big. What's that bite? Here's the bite that you want to take today. Here's what you want to eat today to build that dream. And sometimes when we're cooking our own meal, we don't really know what to eat first. But when you have a guide, they're like, hey, let me help uncomplicate this thought for you so you know exactly what you need to eat to build your life for tomorrow. We're not meant to live confused and overwhelmed and uninspired. We're not meant to live with dread and fear and anxiety. And we're not meant to always have pain in our life. We're meant to be guided out of those things. I'm confident the Holy Spirit can do that, but I'm also confident that God puts people in our lives that help us, like lead us out of those moments. And I would love to partner with you to do that. Lastly, the way that we stay joyful is we need to be inspired. Inspiration isn't something that just comes. Like, inspiration isn't like, wow, I woke up and I'm inspired to work out. Like, I'm inspired to change my life. Yeah, it comes and goes, but often to have continual inspiration, we need someone around us that's cheering us on and inspiring us by what could be in our life. And that's what I believe we need to live a joyful life. We need someone to say, look how far you've come. Look what you've done. Look at the investment that you've made. I see you. I see who you are. I see what you're doing. And we need to stay inspired. And inspiration comes from relationship. It comes from investment. We need to stay inspired, and we need someone to say, hey, let me guide you into living a spiritually vibrant life. Let me guide you into staying inspired, but also into knowing what to eat every day, how to build your life. And what you need is someone to say, eat this today. I'm going to guide you in doing it. And then I'm also going to keep you inspired to keep your eyes on the prize. Life is monotonous. It's sometimes really boring and step by step, that's normal. I feel that way often. And I'm looking for things around my life consistently, people and messages that keep me inspired to show up, to be the best person I'm called to be. So how does that all fit in? Well, all week long I've done a series, and for those of you that are just catching up, you will have seen I did a series on Facebook Live about the top 5 things people want in their spiritual life but can't seem to get. You can go back on my Facebook page and see all of that and watch all of them. They are free. It's a bunch of content, as well as it's on my blog for anything that you want. But all of this is leading up to something. And the reason we've given you this week of content and this week of inspiration is not just to high five you and say, see you next month. But it's to say, hey, we actually want to invite you to pull up a chair at our table, like at Truth the Table. Come sit by me. I want to inspire you as a woman, as a mom, as a wife, as a leader, as a boss. I want to inspire you, and I want to give you shortcuts. I want to inspire you. I don't need your life. I don't need hours of your day. I need a few minutes to help inspire you, to move you forward. And so at Truth the Table, we want to welcome you. We want to invite you into something that we're just beginning called Pathways. It's your personal pathway. Now, I want you to understand there's 2 ways that you're going to be invited in. One of those ways is that you can pull up a chair and join our membership at Truth the Table, and you can do your own personal pathway. You can figure out what pathway you want to take, and you can do whatever one you want, and those are all available to you. And immediately you have access to all of our studies, all of our books, all of our studies. You'll have access to a weekly class where I'll show up in your inbox every single week, and I'll teach you not the things that I think you need to know, but the things that are inspiring me as a working woman, as a woman who's trying to live for God right now. Or you can actually do our master pathway, which the master pathway is a guided path which will take you through all of our studies in the order that we think you would enjoy to build the life that you're called to build. And you can spend the year with us staying inspired. And we have so many good things coming your way. I can't even tell you about all of them. But honestly, I don't know if it's for you. If you're looking for something that's deep and intensive and theological, that's not what this is. If you're looking to stay inspired, to stay motivated, to have really small, tangible ways to grow your life incrementally all the way through your year, And that's what Truth to Table is. So I encourage you to do that. If you think, hey, this isn't for me, but you know who this would really be good for? Would you help us? Like, we aren't marketing this other than you guys. You are our community, and we depend upon your voice. Like, I know that sounds funny. Like, well, Havilah, you have all these people, and you're on Bethel TV, and you have Bethel. No, no, no. Actually, that's not how it works at all. I don't preach on a Sunday morning at Bethel, and I don't get up on a platform and do that. I depend upon Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I actually need you guys to help me. Like, I don't know how else to say it. I need you to help me get the word out that this is here. And you go, well, I don't have a big following. You know what? It's funny. It's really not about those that have a big following. It's those that partner with us and say, hey, I'll share it to my community of 20 or 30 people that I think would enjoy this. I need you. I feel like what I have is really, really good. I'm confident that what I have can change a lot of people's lives, but I need you to share it. I need you to show your people, because listen, we're all marketed to a ton, but the only way that people will actually buy into things is by word of mouth. It's by knowing, like, hey, I trust that person. And some of you guys have followed all my teachings. You've done some of my studies. You guys are fantastic. You leave me notes. You're like, Havilah, this changed my life. And I love that, and I read all of them. But the only way that someone's going to do our studies or connect or sit at our table is because of you, because they trust you, because they're like, oh my gosh, if she's doing it and she's saying it's a good thing, then I'm going to do it. Listen, all my mascara, all of my tops, all the food that I buy is all because my friends have been like, hey, have you tried that? Hey, have you tried that? It's how we work. We're like women, you know, we hang out in packs. We do things in packs. We like to go to the bathroom in packs. So this is how we do life. So we don't want to be marketed to. We want to be inspired by somebody that we know, and we want that to be a credential. Like that's what, like, that validates it. So will you do me a favor? Will you share this with your friends? Stay with us this next week. There's so much we're going to show you and launch into. And the truth is, it's only going to be open for a week. We're just going to open it for anybody who wants to join us, and then we're going to close it so we can spend specific time with our community. Like, we just want to get to know you. We want to be with you. We want to serve you well, and we really want to inspire you so that by next January, you don't have to wait for a January start date. You can start this month, and by January you'll already be on your way to building the life that you want to build. And your New Year's resolutions aren't going to be, well, I hope and I wish. It's going to be like, I'm already there, I'm already started, and I just want more inspiration. So I hope that helps you guys. Again, if this inspired you, please share. If this spoke to you, leave a comment. I promise the next day I'll be reading all of your comments. I'll be looking at all of your posts. It means a lot to me, and I read every single one of them. I laugh through them. I cry through them. I text my mom and show her them. It's all there, and I really do love you guys. Thank you so much for being with me this whole week. If you stayed with me the entire week and you watched all of them, will you say, I watched all of them, so I know who you are? And let me know that you're with me. And I love you guys. I'm actually in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and we're going to a women's conference tonight. But I love you guys, and I'll connect with you very shortly. All right, bye.